So, X-Men 97 has just ended, and I'm serious when I say I've been wanting to talk about it since it aired last month. Believe me, this show is the real deal. And I was initially a bit skeptical when the show got announced. See, some of you may know I'm a new convert to the X-Men lifestyle. After I reviewed all the movies, I entered an X-Men frenzy where I read every comic I could get my hands on. And now X-Men has become one of my favorite superhero franchises. But unfortunately, I do think the original show kinda sucks. Just like a little bit. I mean, it's not unwatchable, it's not worthless trash. It actually does a decent job at adapting classic comic storylines and fitting them into a 25-minute Saturday morning framework. But the show just hasn't aged very well. It's very much a product of its time. If someone's just getting into X-Men, this isn't really the best place to start. And if you didn't grow up with it, then there's really nothing to get out of it. So when they announced that the new show would be a continuation of the classic series, I had zero interest in watching it. But I was wrong as hell. Right from the first 2 episodes, I realized this show has the sauce. I was also worried that you would need to be familiar with the old show to watch this, and that is not the case here. It certainly helps, I mean, you get extra context, but after showing the first few episodes to various people, I can safely say that X-Men 97 is a very good entry point into the series. Honestly, it's a good entry point into X-Men as a whole. It might actually be the most faithful X-Men media that has ever been made outside of the comics. It's got the messy soap opera drama, the crazy twists, and the stunning team-up action scenes that X-Men is known for. The characters here are far removed from their Saturday morning cartoon tropes, and this show gives everybody a chance to shine. Magneto and Rogue are definitely the standouts this season, and it's easy to see Magneto as one of the main characters here. If you watch this series and you do not come out of it loving Magneto, you might be broken. His demeanor and dialogue is just so sharp. He just has such a strong presence in this story. He steals the show every time he's on screen. This show does the characters so well that even Cyclops is cool here. And as a Cyclops truther, I've been so mad that the movies are the only media representation of Scott. Movie Cyclops is the most bland motherfucker of all time, but this show makes Cyclops great again. I've seen people horny posting about Cyclops. I've seen Cyclops fan cams. Nature is healing. However, unfortunately, Sunspot does suck in this show. They introduce him to be a kinda fish out of water character for the audience to follow early on, but his place in this season's kinda lazy, and he really is just here to complain all the time and to give Jubilee a love interest. When Morph is a better written character than Sunspot, that's how I know something weird's going on. X-Men has a massive cast of iconic characters, and they've already teased a number of them to come in Season 2, including my white girl dynamic duo. So I have hopes that they're handled well in later storylines, because while this show nails the core cast, I have seen what it looks like when a character isn't handled as well. The story of this season is also great, and it has a number of twists that made me desperate for new episodes each week, and it surprisingly manages to balance a bunch of different tones really well. It pulls off the campy aspects of the original series while also offering some very realistic and complex romantic drama. And when the show wants to get dark, it gets darker than I thought Disney would be willing to go. However, I do think the show's biggest flaw is in the pacing. Now, I understand that the idea is to cram entire storylines into single episodes like the original show did, but there are a lot of moments and plot lines that feel very rushed as a result. This show will introduce a new character, and then immediately that character speedruns their entire story arc in just one episode. The season takes place over the course of like a month or two, and it really doesn't feel like it with how quickly the show moves. And to its credit, this is how some of the classic Claremont stories would feel sometimes, but I think it's a storytelling style that can feel a bit jarring in this show. And really, this criticism stems from the fact that I kind of just wanted more show. I wanted the episodes to be longer, I wanted to spend more time with the characters, and if that's really my biggest complaint, then I think that's kind of a good thing in some ways. In 10 30-minute episodes, this show manages to throw dozens of new concepts and characters at us, and for the most part, it does work. But I do think a few more episodes or a slightly longer runtime overall would have made things feel a little smoother. One thing that also initially worried me about this show was the animation style. When I heard it was going to be a blend of 2D and 3D like the What If show, I thought it was going to look ugly as hell. But I could not have been more wrong. Now, yeah, some scenes and episodes end up falling victim to the budget just a little bit, but the biggest moments and the most important action scenes are presented in a way that shows that this team loves X-Men. There are a lot of scenes where this show looks fucking sick. And apparently some of the animators were inspired by Marvel vs. Capcom, and that's when I knew this show was going to be crazy. That is why these action scenes go so hard. I've seen a lot of people talk about how they want Invincible to look this good, and honestly, I had the same thoughts when I was watching this. I watched both shows at the same time, and while I love Invincible, I was more looking forward to watching new X-Men episodes. If Invincible stole the action direction from X-Men, and X-Men stole long-form superhero storytelling from Invincible, I think we would probably have two perfect shows. But of course, I mainly love this show because I am an X-Men stan, and a lot of my enthusiasm stems from the fact that this show is way better than it has any right to be. It honestly reminds me a lot of the Clone Wars series. You might look at it and think, I don't really know how this could be any good. And then before you know it, you're getting your shit rocked. X-Men 97 is very similar in that regard. I am almost incapable of watching this show critically because in every episode I was pogging out and pointing at the screen like a fucking gorilla. I was having so much fun watching this show week to week. Some episodes were so good that I have now watched them multiple times for fun. I never do that. And in a world where Marvel has been struggling to keep their IPs fresh and interesting, X-Men says, fuck Spider-Man and those bum-ass Avengers, it's time for the X-Men to cook again. I have forced everybody I know to watch this show. I've recommended it at every opportunity. If you have even a passing interest in X-Men, I think it's hard to hate X-Men 97. So I'm going to give Season 1 of X-Men 97 an 8.5 out of 10.